4 o'clock hour, greetings and salutations. Welcome to this brand new afternoon. This afternoon has never been lived before. It's a blank canvas. If you will it so, it can be your masterpiece. Here's how you do the afternoon. Think of 3 things for which you're grateful, and then do the afternoon with all the joy, wonder, enthusiasm, and gratitude you can muster. Hashtag TYG, turn it up. It is my pleasure to welcome to the broadcast author and speaker Brad Huddleston. He's author of the new book, Digital Rehab, which is the follow-up to his book, Digital Cocaine, which is actually appropriate because the dopamine centers of the brain don't know the difference between cocaine and anything else. They just know they get triggered and they work. So, Brad, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you very much. And you've got such a sweet radio voice, and I've got to follow you. This is terrible. No, I'm honored to be here, Hallerin.
Well, it's great to have you here. You are actually in town as the guest of Buffett Heights Church.
I am.
And Pastor Dave Thomas is in the building this afternoon. Before we dive into our conversation, talk about what's going on at the church and why you brought Brad to save us all.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Jesus does that.
That's right, yeah. I heard Brad a couple of years ago, and his message about digital addiction 3-4 years ago was very compelling and challenged me on a lot of things. And I have 6 kids. A lot of this stuff resonated with me. So I brought him in a couple of years ago and just said, teach us what's happening with this technology in our homes. He kind of opened up for us some stuff that we didn't realize. I love my kids. I want them to be successful. I want them to be able to think for themselves and all that. And so we said, hey, we need to do it again. And, of course, now Brad has brought more information, more research, and a lot of data about AI, which is kind of scary.
When is he going to be speaking at the church?
So Sunday night, 6 o'clock. It's a general audience, sort of a lecture interaction thing. Monday night is dedicated to parents and grandparents. And then Tuesday night for educators, 6:30 Monday night, Tuesday night, 6 o'clock on Sunday night. And right. We're over near the Amazon East Town.
Okay,
is where we're near.
So we will remind people of that at the end of our time together. Brad, let's start with your background. Mm-hmm. What brought you to this moment, this microphone today?
Well, I again appreciate it so much. Many years ago, it's been nearly 20 now. My background's in computer science and Bible. I graduated on the same day. I had to go with all the holy people and get a piece of paper, run around with all the nerds, and get my 4-year degree in computer science on the same day. So we attend a really good, solid church, similar to Buffett Heights, and the youth leader came to me about more than 20 years now and said, I need help. So back then, MySpace was the big thing. Yeah. It was the predecessor, to Facebook, and she showed me these profiles, and these were kids in our youth group, about half of them, and you could tell they'd been watching porn because of the pictures they were posting. We didn't have terms for it like we do now, like sexting and things like that. They were clearly doing that, and the language was horrible. Now, I knew these families. These were good families. The kids had gotten caught up in the middle of the night, parents not so savvy on the tech. They're in bed, kids under the cover of darkness. So the pastor asked me if I would deal with it on a Sunday morning. Now, I'd already been in ministry, and then, of course, I have a technical background. So I did a message on a Sunday morning, and at the time, I had a television show, and I went to the network, and I said, hey, there's this new thing called social media. And I've looked not only at our church, but other churches, schools, both public and private, and we're in trouble. These kids are doing some things that have shocked me. And I asked for some time to do a documentary, and they signed off and gave me some airtime, and I produced a documentary, and then I got a long history with Australia. So we streamed that down there, and then they called and said, mate, would you come down and do a culturally relevant version for Australia? So it just took off, and then I ended up working with the Queensland Police down there, and from time to time, not full time, but when I would do tours with them and things like that. So it started with a church group with good families, very good families, but they got sucked into that world. Well, now we've got terms for all of this, and it's just exploded everywhere. So I wrote a book called The Dark Side of Technology, and it went through 6 revisions, and now it's out of print. I mean, I've been beating this drum for a long time. So I started studying neuroscience because when I wrote my first book, there was only psychology, and you could easily poke holes in it because you ask 3 psychologists the same question, you might get 3 different answers. But when the brain scans came out, it was like just scanning a broken femur. I mean, there was just no question about it. So I was self-taught, and I ended up in South Africa, and I was on a show which would be their equivalent of 60 Minutes. And when I went on that show, my schedule just completely filled up. So the University of South Africa at the time was forming a neuroscience department and asked me if I would come into collaboration, and I panicked. So I'm not a neuroscientist. We know, but you know more about this stuff. We've got the people here to help you. Bring research to us and let us help you. And the doors like that open, and it shocked me. But there's people around the world who love kids, they love families, and they want to help them. And they know we're in a mess. So Digital Cocaine came, and that's really the one that was top heavy on neuroscience. And then I've written a more recent one, Digital Rehab. And I'm about finished with my doctorate. And I'm doing my dissertation capstone project on digital rehabilitation. I'm creating my doctorate's in education. So I'm educating people on how to rehab from it, what the brain looks like, and how long it's going to take, withdrawal symptoms, and all that.
All right, so let's talk a little bit first about the fact that there is such a thing as digital addiction, because I think one of the challenges with this topic is when you have a drug addiction, it may present itself in the behavior of the person in a much different way.
Right.
Like an alcoholic is going to have, it animates behavior.
Right.
You can doom scroll in your bed for hours. We can't smell it on you. We can't see you stagger. We can't. I don't know that it has animating behavior to identify it, not only to outsiders, but to you even. Right. Like, and that may be what makes it so insidious. It has the kind of effect of like high blood pressure.
Right.
Right. You don't know it's there until it's got
a certain point.
Let's take a break. When we come back, let's just talk about digital cocaine first, and then we'll make our way to digital rehab.
Sounds good.
My guest is Brad Huddleston. It's the AAA Radio Experience.
Hey, East Tennessee, it's Jake Newton at West Knoxville Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Knoxville's mega dealer. This month means bigger deals and more savings. We've got a massive pre-owned selection with cars, trucks, and SUVs starting at just $4,000. And listen up, we will trade for anything that you can drag, roll, or chase onto our lot. Need financing? We have over 40 lenders ready to say yes. Visit us online or stop by at West Knoxville Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram at Walker Springs and Kingston Pike, where the deals are huge.
It is Eddie Check time in East Tennessee. Since 2004, Eddie Check has offered free PSA tests for men during our prostate health awareness program.
Eddie Check has become a tradition for men, and it's where they can learn about prostate health. Prostate cancer is the second most common cause of cancer-related deaths of men in the United States. But if you catch it early, the 5-year survival rate, nearly 100%.
Go to EddieCheck.com to find dates and locations for your free PSA test.
Whether it's slots or live dealers, SpinQuest.com has the fun and action you're looking for with SpinQuest exclusives, blackjack, roulette, baccarat, and even live dice with craps and bubble craps. The games never stop, so you don't have to. And right now, new users get $30 coin packs for just $10. Play now at SpinQuest.com.
SpinQuest is a free-to-play social casino. Void where prohibited. Visit SpinQuest.com for more details.
Brad Huddleston joins us on the AAA Radio Experience. He's going to be at Buffett Heights Church Friday. Sunday,
night.
Monday, Tuesday.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's
Sunday,
right.
Monday,
Sunday
Tuesday.
at 6:00 p.m., Monday and Tuesday at 6:30.
What's your website, Pastor?
BuffettHeights.org. That's BuffettHeights.org.
All right. Brad, let's get to digital cocaine. You named your book that for a reason.
Right.
And it's when you do the brain science, when you look at the brain scans, you look at a brain on cocaine and you look at a brain on social media, and this court case even verifies
Correct. Yes.
the power, but kind of nerd out on it.
When I first discovered the brain scans, what I first noticed was in some screen activity, the scans match heroin addicts. So you do a side-by-side comparison. The corpus callosum, everything gets affected, the prefrontal cortex. But it's the addictive mechanism happens in a place in the brain called the nucleus accumbens. Most people would know that as the reward circuit of the brain. It's a little cluster of nerves, and it gets all excited by dopamine. So the issue is the ingestion points and the symptoms. So the ingestion point for Coke would be up the nose. Alcohol would be through the mouth, metabolized through the liver. Pot would be through the lungs as well. But when it comes to the ingestion of digital, it's just through the eyes. But your stimulation is stimulation. And food works the same way through the eyes. And that's people get addicted to food. Well, you get addicted, so that little cluster of nerves gets excited in the reward circuit, and it rewards you with good feelings with dopamine hits. No different than cocaine, heroin, or any other drug that is a stimulant or an opioid. So the screens do it, and it doesn't matter, the science shows, what's on that screen. So the addiction doesn't start with content. So well-meaning parents that I care for would, in the early days, say, well, I only allow my children to use this for educational purposes. Now, it sounds good, but then you have to hug them and say, well, let me ask you this. What evidence do you have scientifically that little education app that they're using on the school Chromebook is no different than, say, Call of Duty? And they look at you bewildered. So there's always, Hallerin, this little pesky little thing called the truth, which can either make you mad or free you, depending on what you do with that. But I looked at the brain scans then of the cocaine addicts, and in some digital activities, recurring scanning with different scanning technologies most often would match with the video gamers, for example, the cocaine brain. And it's simply because it's dopaminergically, it's producing the same amount of dopamine in the same part of the brain, therefore the addiction is the same. So the ingestion point, meaning how the stimulation came into the brain, is different. And then symptomatically, an alcoholic would have cirrhosis of the liver, a smoker might have emphysema. Now we're in a global mental health crisis, which is what's keeping me on airplanes. Just 2 weeks ago, I was in Bogota, Colombia, speaking about artificial intelligence, digital addiction at 2 conferences, and then I'm going back down there. I've got Australia coming up and all this. I'm here in Knoxville, privileged to be here, by the way. But what is happening, the word is getting out through those court cases. And that's given me a platform to now show these brain scans. And it doesn't necessarily change behavior, but for those who want the change, those who want the freedom, it helps them. Most people just get really, I think, they're in denial, just like any other addiction. So parents will say, well, not my child. They can handle it. They've been gaming forever and it hasn't bothered. You hear the same thing as that an alcoholic would say, well, I've been drinking and I'm fine. I can cope with it.
Handle it.
Yeah, but it's because the addiction, neurobiologically, the addiction is the same, but the symptoms with, what we have now with digital addiction is a mental health crisis. So Australia, where I spend a good chunk of my life, has just banned social media, not just at school, but for those under the age of 16. They went into effect on December the 10th, 2025. No social media. It's illegal. And it's because the suicide rates shot through the roof. So we saw suicidal ideation grow. And then all of a sudden, 12-year-olds started killing themselves. And so the government stepped in and stopped using words like balance and limit, and they just said stop. And so they passed legislation. So Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Brian Schlotz, one Democrat, one Republican, are leading up the COSMA Act here in the U.S. It's been coming in and out of the Senate, and now it's passed committee, which is similar legislation to ban it here. Now, they've capped it at 13 and under, which I think is way too low. But just saying to the audience, brace yourself, because there's a ban. It looks like if it passes again for the second round, they'll put it on President Trump's desk. Whether or not he'll sign it, we don't know. But there are people who care about these kids. But the problem is that the average, what would you guess the average age of a video gamer is in the U.S.? Take a guess.
I've heard different numbers. I've heard numbers that skew older, actually, than younger. Mm-hmm. I've heard a number, males around 35.
It is. It's 36 to 44.
Okay.
So my target audience, even though they put me in front of thousands of kids every year, parents are the problem. And the moms are just as addicted to social media as their daughters. And so we really want to see the parent meeting on these next few nights. But the average attendance when I do schools, of course, they put me in front of all the kids, but then when we have a non-compulsory attended parent meeting at night, the average is 10. And yet, and it's always the same parents who don't need to hear it. They're the responsible ones.
Right.
But it's the 36-year-old gamer who's neglecting the family, the wife, and it's because they've got an addiction that is very prolific. And now we have AI, which is a whole different topic that's gone through the roof.
This is so. As you were speaking, this has been one of my passions. I've done a lot of study about the brain as well, and the profile, the addiction profile, like you said, when you look at the brain scans, and if you know about how the brain functions, it doesn't matter what the delivery mechanism is.
Right.
The biochemical response is the same.
Yes.
The real struggle with addiction is not the high, it's the withdrawal after the high.
That's right.
That's what keeps you stuck in the loop.
Yep.
Is you're chasing, you even stop chasing the high. You just don't. And there was an episode of Huberman Labs, and he was talking to a scientist, and I forget her name, and he was describing trying to tell young students, 20 to 25, to put down their phones. Young man comes up to him and says, "You don't understand. When my phone dies, my spirit dies, and I don't feel alive until it comes back on." And when I heard him say that, I was like, what a monster we're actually dealing with. But then if you were to do a quick Google search on the number of smartphones active just in the USA, and I told you had a delivery platform in the hundreds of millions that nobody can interdict, that immediately everywhere at once the delivery of the drug is there.
Right.
You don't have to ship it on a boat. You don't have to have a dealer on the corner. You don't have to. It's just there. The scale of this is unbelievable.
Yeah, I have to sometimes just go hiking, get out in the woods and go. It's so overwhelming. So I was in the jungle of Thailand. I was working with one of the hill tribes groups with a missionary, and they asked me to go up there. And you would think, why are you in the jungle in an impoverished nation where they don't have much? Well, we were sitting there, and I spoke at the indigenous church on the Sunday morning, and then they asked me to do a youth meeting in the afternoon. It's just hot in Southeast Asia. You're in the jungle, so it's under a covered shelter. And these kids are gorgeous, just precious kids, So they seated the first graders on the front row, the 12th graders on the back, and all the grades in between. And my translator said to me right before we got started, he said, "Brad, the first graders are being distracted by their iPhones. Should we take them away before we get started?" Now, my first thought, I've seen first graders with phones, we all have, but I'm thinking they don't have hardly any food or clothes. Where are they getting phones from? And we've, to this day, don't know. It's probably a UN or a government program for educational purposes, of course. But there they were. And I have seen in Africa, I go to Africa, you go through Kenya, and there's mules pulling wagons, and there's hay everywhere, and pigs and dogs and everything running around, and they're walking around with phones. And I'm affirming what you're saying, the scale and the magnitude of this cocaine addiction. And what we don't have are reams of data. We do with older people who've been on drugs. Studies have been done with adults on coke and heroin. What scares me, we have the equivalent addiction in kindergartners up through high school age, and they're all on the equivalent of coke and heroin.
It's interesting. You said we don't have the data. You know who does have the data?
God. The companies. Yes.
The companies
Correct.
Know this.
Right, yes.
They actually have hard data.
Yeah.
Their algorithmic science is designed around all of the data that they are receiving from their users.
Right.
They know exactly how long you look at something. They know exactly which images trigger, which images release. They know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, and they employ companies like Dopamine Labs. These are neuroscience companies that you take your app to, a lot of fitness apps. And what they do is they put them out at scale. This is a real thing that documentaries have been done on with 60 Minutes and that. So they will test your app to maximize the dopamine production to keep people coming back to your app. So you pay the company to test it at scale on people who don't know that they're guinea pigs. And then they will help you refine your code so that your app is maximized with dopamine production. And, you've got guys like the guy who invented the like button on Facebook. He's out doing, I call it the repentance tour, but they're trying to rectify some of this because they feel guilty after a while. Tristan Harris, the ethicist at Google, they've
got a new documentary dropping tomorrow.
And they did The Social Dilemma.
Right.
And then, yes.
So the new one is coming out tomorrow.
Right.
And they're hitting a warning bell again.
Yes, and now we have this court case. But what makes the court case so powerful? They're likening it to the tobacco industry court cases when they were denying that they had cancer and it was addictive, and then the whistleblower Jeffrey Wigand goes on 60 Minutes, blows the whistle. So they're equating what happened yesterday back to the tobacco industry. So now something might be done.
I want to talk about that now that we've identified the fact that this use of screens, this use of social media, the algorithms that are sticky, that keep you there, this use of video games, all of those things that can create the same brain science addiction,
right,
is there. Now that we are aware of that, then that leads you to, well, how do you get out if you're in? How do you rehab that? And so I want to begin to explore, how does a person made aware begin to rehabilitate
right
a digitally addicted brain? 431. My guest is Brad Huddleston. More in a moment.
Hey, East Tennessee, it's Jake Newton at West Knoxville Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Knoxville's mega dealer. This month means bigger deals and more savings. We've got a massive pre-owned selection with cars, trucks, and SUVs starting at just $4,000. And listen up, we will trade for anything that you can drag, roll, or chase onto our lot. Need financing? We have over 40 lenders ready to say yes. Visit us online or stop by at West Knoxville Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram at Walker Springs and Kingston Pike, where the deals are huge.
It is Eddie Check time in East Tennessee. Since 2004, Eddie Check has offered free PSA tests for men during our prostate health awareness program.
Eddie Check has become a tradition for men, and it's where they can learn about prostate health. Prostate cancer is the second most common cause of cancer-related deaths of men in the United States. But if you catch it early, the 5-year survival rate, nearly 100%.
Go to EddieCheck.com to find dates and locations for your free PSA test.
Most people would rather remove a nest of irate hornets than search for auto and home insurance. That's why the Zebra searches for you, comparing over 100 insurance companies to find savings no one else can. Compare today at thezebra.com. I think I'll wait inside.
Brad Huddleston is my guest. He's the author of Digital Rehab and Digital Cocaine. He will be at Buffett Heights Church Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Pastor, talk about the 3 sessions that you'll have there and what people can expect.
Okay, so Brad's going to be with us talking to a general audience Sunday night at 6 o'clock. So that's just whoever wants to come. We're going to have our teenagers there and, of course, parents, adults, all that sort of stuff. That's a general audience, probably go a little more than an hour. Monday night, the target is parents and grandparents, and he's going to be dealing with, how do I handle my kids? What are the guidelines that maybe are the best practices for my family? That's Monday night at 6:30. Tuesday night at 6:30, we're targeting educators, sort of a professional development kind of a meeting. Teachers, educators, administrators, what's going on in learning, school, how can we help, what are the things we need to look for. So public's invited. Absolutely love to have you. We're at 2800 Mill Road over near the Amazon East in Sam's Club.
All right. Well, I see now, Chris, why they have to put time restrictions on radio, TV shows, this kind of, because I see right now, Brad and I could talk for 7 days straight.
Yes, we could.
We're both nerds.
Yep.
And this is something we're passionate about. So thank you. I'm glad I got to meet you today, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's my honor and privilege. Thank you for having us. I really mean that.
So let's talk about digital rehab.
Sure.
It's one thing, the addicted brain, and understanding the science of addiction.
Right.
Which is really rooted in habit formation, cue, reward, response, that whole mechanism of the brain.
Right.
When you're dealing with chemical, well, I guess it is a chemical addiction too.
Yes.
But when you've also introduced other chemicals into the body, there's a whole layer of things you have to do to kind of chemically detox the body.
Right.
This is a little bit different. So nerd out a little bit with me about the science of rehab.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, so with like alcohol, they will often use other drugs. Your brain can shrink. So you have to be very careful when you wean in that case. Very carefully and very slowly. Other drugs are the same way. They might introduce temporary drugs to help you come down and that sort of thing. With digital, it's normally, I did a deep dive into the detox clinics that exist in Asia. There are about 400 of them in South Korea, which has the best video gamers on earth. And then I did a deep dive of the experts here in the country, like Dr. Nicholas Kardaris, Victoria Dunkley, and others who are really on the forefront here in our country. And the general consensus is, outside of pornography is a polydrug effect that is in a category all by itself. So we'll get to that one. But with normal screen addiction, the office worker, the kids who are on video games, social media, 4 to 6 weeks with no technology or television, and not a little bit on Saturday for a reward. It turns out that cocaine is also bad on Saturday like it is on Tuesday, right? So
you're saying you have to stop.
You have to.
All screens for 4 to 6 weeks.
So what happens when you put an alcoholic into dry out? Do you give them a little bit of beer for reward? You have to stop the drug to get over the drug addiction. So the brain then returns to homeostasis or normal. So on the brain scans with MRIs, you will see a lot of color missing, which means the neurons aren't firing, the blood flow is being cut off, the electricity's being diminished. But the good news is when people go for an extended period of time, just like a coke addict or just like an alcoholic drying out, you don't keep drinking alcohol to get over it. When you get over it and you rescan the brain, the news is actually very, very good. The color returns, and the younger you are, the better that happens. Now, the older you get, the longer you do it, you start to get into irreparable damage. But everyone has improvement. So the withdrawals. With alcohol, I mentioned you'd have cirrhosis of the liver, perhaps. You'd have problems with your lungs if you're a smoker. But with digital, the number one symptom, it's two-paired. It's anger and aggression. And aggression can be, we've encountered children who just trash the house. I mean, completely trash the house when they can't get their fix with Minecraft or whatever it is they're playing. So the aggression then can also be internal. So they withdraw. And that's a form of aggression, passive aggressive. But it can also mean violence. But anger. The second one is anxiety and depression combined. So now we have anxiety disorders that we've never seen. Comfort pets. There are schools that I go into that have multiple psychologists on staff, and they have the comfort dogs going around, and they have rooms they can go to. And in one school, they can crawl underneath and go into this little cave until they calm down because the anxiety disorders directly caused by digital addiction. This third one, well, the most prolific one would be a medical condition called anhedonia. And this is found in traditional drug addicts and people with various psychoses such as schizophrenia and major depressive disorder. So anhedonia is a numbing of the pleasure center of the brain where children now, for example, say, I'm bored. And the parents go, how can you be bored? You have more stuff than we ever had growing up. What has happened is the brain has shut down because it's overstimulated and it's trying to protect itself. So that's two Greek words put together, and meaning none. And hedonia is where we get our modern English word hedonism. It's the ongoing pursuit of pleasure. So it shuts down, and you see children who are just absolutely numb. They're not necessarily depressed either, but they feel nothing. And so those are the top three that you'll find. But in addition to that, the loss of sleep by having devices in the bedroom. An accumulated sleep deficit causes a whole host of psychoses just by itself, which could be fixed if you could just get people to use the bedroom as a place to sleep instead of scroll and take the devices out of the bedroom. So under normal conditions, 4 to 6 weeks, you see tremendous results from before brain scans and after brain scans. When it comes to pornography, if you look at the brain scans, the blood flow is restricted in the deepest parts of the brain, and it looks horrible. And there are a couple of studies that I refer to of when that starts to heal, and it can take somewhere between 5 and 8 months before you start to respond. And But you respond. That's the good news. But the hard, cold truth is, just like a cocaine addict, you would never tell them to keep using cocaine and wean and get off of it. They dry you out when you're an alcoholic. With a heroin, they get you off of heroin. But with digital, what people will say, just like any other addiction, well, I'm going to limit. I'm going to back off and do less. And for those who aren't addicted, that's a good idea. But when you are addicted, a detox has to come first, and then your relationship when you come out of the detox has to fully change. And, I jokingly but truthfully sometimes will say, people have come to me frequently and say, can you help me with a porn addiction, video game addiction, social media addiction? But no one has ever come to me and said, Brad, I'm so addicted to Microsoft Word. Would you please pray for me and help me? Right? So, typically with those things, you get in, you get out. They're technically addictive.
So let me ask you this. You said 4 to 6 weeks. Cold
turkey.
Okay. If you're addicted.
So
so the next question then, and we'll take a break and I would love to get your answer. Mm-hmm. How does one know if they're addicted? It's the Triple H Radio Experience. My guest is Brad Huddleston. He's the author of several books, 2 of his latest. His latest is called Digital Rehab, and then the one that precedes that is Digital Cocaine. He will be at Buffett Heights Church Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Sunday night a general session, Monday night
parents and grandparents at 6:30, and Tuesday night for teachers, administrators, 6:30 also.
The website for the church is
BuffettHeights.org, BuffettHeights.org, and then that's 2800 Mill Road.
His name is Dave Thomas. He's the pastor of the church. There are no free hamburgers there.
That's right. No Frosties.
No Frosties.
What? I'm not coming down.
That was in his rider. What are you talking about? So how do people follow up with you? How do they get the book, and how do they consume your content?
Right. Yes, depending on the country. Here, just go to my name, bradhuddleston.com, and you can see lots of information there. The books can be ordered there. They're not on Amazon yet because there's content in there that at the time I wrote them, they were canceling people, and I just thought, well, they'll cancel me because I'm not going with the grain and the narrative. I think that's probably past now, and I should probably put them on there. But bradhuddleston.com. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
All right, awesome. So now, how does one know if they are digitally addicted?
It's pretty simple. You could go to the great expense of having brain scans, but you don't need to do that. If you're a parent, it's simple. When the kid's heavily engrossed in their gaming or social media activity, just politely, not even rudely, say, listen, can I please have your phone? We're going to go have dinner now. And if you get any other reaction than a polite response and they hand you the phone, there's a problem at some level. So you'll hear kids say 5 more minutes, and things like that, all the way to aggression, full-on aggression. And the deeper the aggression and the more resistance, the deeper the addiction and the more danger that they're in. That if you were to scan their brain, you'd clearly see it.
I'm thinking about saying to my kids are grown and gone, but I'm thinking about parents right now driving home going, okay, let me try this. Hey, Tommy, we're going to go to dinner now. Tell you what, let me have your phone.
Yeah. And if they freak out or have a tantrum, and then they're in trouble.
You make Tommy roar.
Mm-hmm. But that's what parents fear, that I find anyway. They don't want that reaction. They don't want the kid to say, I hate you. They don't want the kid to say that. So that fear overrides, taking it away. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that we've had success stories. Not a lot. I wish I could say we had a lot. But I do have videos of testimonials. I record them when I come across them. And one of the common threads that you'll find when parents have detoxed their children is this. This happened twice. The school called wanting to know what's up with the kid. Their grades suddenly got better. That's a new kid. What has happened? So what happens is when you detox them, the child that God created emerges, the real one, and they meet the child for the first time. because the old child was masked with addiction.
Right.
And from the time they were in the stroller,
Right.
But then these children emerge, and then these giftings emerge. So in a couple of cases, one kid was highly academic, or before he had terrible grades, and all of a sudden they realized this kid has a high IQ. He can go far with this. And then other kids have different skills. In God's eyes, they're all the same. I don't put academics above anything. Whatever they're good at, that's the gift they have, and that's what you nurture. But the gifts will often emerge too and say, I had no idea this kid was so good at this, because the real child emerged. Right. And the parents are shocked pleasantly. So there is, as hard as this topic is, you go through a detox, and you have to plan it, by the way. You don't just go home and start World War III and jerk everything out. You look at your vacation calendar when the kids are not in school and the school doesn't require them to have it, and then you distract the living daylights out of them while you're on a vacation where there's no Wi-Fi, et cetera, and you work that plan. And you prepare them for this. And what I tell parents, you owe them 2 apologies. One, you're a bad parent because you're addicted too, and admit it. Because if you don't, because they tell me all the time, my dad plays games half the night.
Right.
And my mom ignores me because she's on social media. She claims she's working, but I know she's not.
Right.
So just admit it and apologize to them. And then the second apology is, I bought these drugs for you, these digital drugs, and I didn't mean to. I didn't know this information, but I'm going to try to be a better parent. Now I got to take them away, and I am sorry, but in fairness to you, I'm going to spoil you with anything analog, non-digital, and we're going to go away, and we're going to detox, and I'm going to make it up to you. And we're going to have a truckload of fun for 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm just going to spoil you with as much as I can afford in fairness to you, and we're going to be a family. So you plan it. And it may take a couple months to really find a slot where you can do it. So you got to be rational about it.
Right. You got to.
Yeah, you can't just go home and start. Look, I had one success story where the dad went right, and he went home and jerked all the video games out. And the kid, they discovered they're extremely good baseball players. We filmed them in California a few weeks ago. And it was tremendous. And that dad but look, that's a good dad too.
Yeah.
He just put his foot down. It's old school.
That's old school.
It's old school. And he went and and the kids adore their dad, and now I'm their uncle. They like me too. So
I was going to leave you with something. I wrote this poem a few years ago.
Okay. Was it prophetic? It must be.
Let's see.
Okay.
The title of the poem is I Hate My Phone.
Yeah.
Here goes.
All right.
I hate my phone. I really do. It's demanding, demeaning, and stuck to me like glue. I turned off the ringer so it flashes instead, or buzzes or shakes to get back in my head. It keeps me distracted. It's really unfair because wherever I am, I'm never all there. It gives me the weather, it gives me the news, but most of that's sad, so it gives me the blues. I hate my phone. It just makes me numb. If this thing is so smart, why does it make me feel dumb? One study says it's never more than 2 feet away. I look down at my phone more than I look up to pray. It promises pleasure. It just brings me pain, this deadly digital high-tech ball and chain. It takes away my freedom, makes me feel bound. Each time I check it, I have to look down. The tweets and the text, they poke and they prod. I spend more time with this phone than I spend with God. But I've used this distraction unconsciously to keep me distracted from ever looking at me.
You're onto it. That is outstanding. My word of encouragement is, and you're onto it, oh, taste and see.
Yeah.
There is something better. Just taste him. Taste the Lord and his word. I speak a lot in the secular realm, and it's difficult sometimes to bring these things up, but you can't separate the spiritual from that. It's in there too. And the ultimate strength that breaks those chains, I would submit, is Jesus. And I know not everyone would agree with that. The secular people, I love them too. And I'm here to help. And your poem encapsulated perfectly my life's work. And you did it in less than a minute.
Brad Huddleston, he is going to be at Buffett Heights Sunday night. Monday night, Tuesday night. Church website is?
BuffettHeights.org.
Brad's website is?
BradHuddleston.com.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.